Texas has a talent for teaching you not to look down, at the reeds by the boat ramp, at the current under your inner tube, at the warm bay you wade into up to your waist, all while quietly deciding the water around you is empty. The people who live closest to it are usually the ones who've gotten best at pretending otherwise. This is a countdown of 8 creatures in Texas waters, ranked not by how deadly each one is on paper, but by how hard the people sharing the water have agreed to pretend it isn't there. And the strange rule of this list is that the harder a thing is to see, the higher it climbs. Before we go under, if this is the kind of video that stays with you after you've closed the app, subscribe. It takes 2 seconds and it genuinely helps the channel. And tell me one thing in the comments while you're here. What water is closest to where you're sitting right now? Whether that's a bay, a lake, a stock tank, or a river you can't even name. Number 8. The Hardhead catfish. We start with the animal you've already touched, not glimpsed from a boat, held in your bare hand and cursed at. Every Texas angler knows the hardhead and its uglier cousin, the gaff topsail. You catch them when you were fishing for something better. You shake them off the hook, sling the slime off your wrist, and throw them back as a worthless trash fish that nobody grants a second thought. And that lack of respect is the entire trap. Because both of them are venomous. The stiff spines leading the dorsal and pectoral fins aren't just sharp, they're wrapped in venom-producing tissue, and the fish can lock them bolt upright the instant it feels a hand closing around it. Grab one wrong and that spine drives deep into a palm or a finger, and what follows is not a scratch you rinse off. It's a throbbing, radiating pain that can crawl past your elbow, swelling that stiffens the whole hand, and a puncture so prone to infection that doctors reach for antibiotics and a tetanus shot before you've finished telling the story. Snap the barb off inside the wound, which happens constantly, and it has to be cut back out surgically. And here's the cruel arithmetic of it. Because these fish are everywhere, because you catch a dozen of them for every keeper, the sheer volume of contact makes them one of the most common wildlife injuries on the coast. The gaff top even coats itself in a thick, ropey slime that people wipe off without thinking, hand already sliding toward the spine. Thousands of people a year land in Gulf Coast emergency rooms because of a fish they were raised to treat as garbage. That's the perfect door into this list. In Texas, the danger you deny hardest isn't the monster in the deep channel. It's the one you're holding in your hand, calling it a nuisance, while it drives venom into your thumb. Number 7. The Portuguese man-o'-war. There's a stretch of the coast, mostly through spring, when the wind delivers something that looks like a present. Small sails, iridescent blue and violet, bobbing in on the tide and collecting along the rack line at Galveston and south of it. They look like balloons the sea lost track of, and children run down and pick them up, which is precisely the mistake. The Portuguese man-o'-war isn't a jellyfish, and it isn't even one animal. It's a colony, a cluster of specialized organisms living as a single body, with a job divided between the float, the tentacles, and the parts that digest. And trailing beneath that pretty balloon are tentacles that average around 30 feet and can stream out past 100, each one studded with microscopic capsules that fire barbed threads of venom on contact. Emergency room doctors don't reach for gentle words. They describe a sting that folds grown adults in half. Here is the part that genuinely undoes people. It does not stop being dangerous when it dies. That blue sail lying limp and drying on the hot sand hours after it washed up, the tentacle coiled next to it is still loaded, still firing on the same blind reflex, long after the animal is technically gone. Galveston's beach patrol treats a steady stream of stings every season and flies purple flags on the days the water is carrying them, a warning most tourists read as decoration. And nearly everything people think they know about treating the sting is wrong. The old playground advice does nothing, and rinsing with fresh water can actually make the unfired capsules fire. Worse, a single float can shed tentacle fragments that drift near invisible through the shallows long after the balloon itself has moved on. So you can be stung by an animal that isn't even in front of you anymore. So the denial here isn't hiding, but it's opposite, because the thing is floating in the open, gorgeous and obvious, and we have quietly filed it under harmless because it's beautiful, and gone on picking it up dead or alive. Number 6. The alligator gar. Ask around East Texas about the alligator gar, and you'll get the same answer in 3 flavors. That it's extinct, that it's a myth, or that it's a fish story your uncle stretched by a foot every time he told it at a cookout. All 3 are wrong, and the truth is far stranger than the lie. The alligator gar is the largest freshwater fish in North America after the sturgeon, a living fossil, barely changed in 100 million years, plated head to tail in hard, interlocking, diamond-shaped scales with a long, broad snout full of teeth. It looks assembled from an older world because, functionally, it is one. It can even gulp air at the surface, rolling up out of the murk to breathe, which is why people swear they've seen something huge and then talk themselves out of it. And it gets big in a way that sounds invented. These fish reach 10 feet. They push past 300 pounds. And no waterway on Earth produces more record-class ones than the Trinity River, which runs southeast out of Dallas and holds most of the world's line-class records for the species. In 2023, an angler pulled a gar off a lake in East Texas that weighed 283 pounds and stretched more than 8 feet. Not from some sealed-off wilderness. From water that families boat across, ski across, and float on inner tubes every single summer, in full daylight, never once looking down. Here's the honest part most videos skip. The alligator gar almost never goes after a person. It's not stalking your kids off the dock. The danger it poses is quieter and stranger than teeth. It's what its size does to your sense of the water. A river that can hide a 300-pound armored fish for decades is a river you never really knew. And these giants are slow to mature and slow to breed, which is exactly why decades of people treating them as monsters to be shot on sight nearly erased them before anyone bothered to count. Number 6 runs on a failure of memory. Texans have decided the alligator gar belongs to the past, a rumor, a leftover, a dusty mount on a bait shop wall. It isn't in the past. It's under the boat right now, breeding, enormous, ancient, and completely real. Number 5, the Cottonmouth. This is the only creature on the whole list whose denial is built directly into its name. If you've spent any time near East Texas water, someone has handed you the reassuring version that the dark, thick snake in the pond is just a water moccasin, as though the nickname settles anything, which it does not. The Cottonmouth is the only venomous water snake in all of North America, and it lives precisely where people go to cool off. The drainage ditch, the slow stream, the cypress edge of the lake, the bank you fish from at dusk. Its venom is hemotoxic. It breaks down tissue, causes ugly swelling and internal bleeding, and while deaths are genuinely rare, a real bite is a real emergency, hours from help if you're deep on a river. But the venom isn't really the trap here, the confusion is. Texas water is full of harmless water snakes that resemble a cottonmouth closely enough that people lump every dark swimmer together and stop paying attention entirely. And then the mirror image mistake happens. Someone waves off an actual cottonmouth as probably nothing, a stick, a rat snake, reaches past it into the brush and finds out how wrong they were. Unlike a snake that flees, a cornered cottonmouth will hold its ground, throw its head back, and gape that white cotton lining at you as a promise. Picture how it actually happens. You're pulling the boat up onto a muddy bank, or reaching under a dock to free a snagged line, or stepping over a log at the water's edge with your eyes on your footing and your hand landing somewhere you didn't look. The snake was there before you were. It gave you every signal it had. You just weren't reading a slipper as a threat. Now think about what the name itself does. Water moccasin sounds soft. It sounds like footwear. An entire state took one of the only venomous water snakes on the continent and gave it a name you'd give a house slipper, and then relaxed. That's not an accident of language. It's a decision, and it's exactly why number 5 sinks fangs into more ankles than it ever should. We're at the halfway mark, and everything above this line is deadlier than everything below it. If you've made it this far, you already know this isn't idle trivia. It's the kind of thing worth knowing before you're standing waist deep in it. So, subscribe now if you haven't, because the top 4 is where this stops being a bad afternoon and starts being the rest of your life. Number 4, the American alligator. And yes, you've been waiting for this one. You had it penciled in near the very top before the video even started, because everybody does. So let's do the math you've been avoiding. There are an estimated 400 to 500,000 alligators in Texas, spread across roughly 120 counties, from the Sabine River clear over toward the Rio Grande. Run that against the population of the state, and you land somewhere near 1 alligator for every 60 people in it. Sit with what that means. The retention pond behind the office park has one. The water hazard on the coastal golf course has one. The bayou behind the subdivision, the drainage canal at the edge of town, the reservoir the whole county swims in every July. Habitat? All of it. An adult male routinely passes 10 feet. The largest ever caught alive in the state ran nearly 14 feet and over 900 pounds, pulled from a wildlife refuge on the Trinity River. It's an ambush hunter of absurd patience, able to hold at the waterline, motionless for hours, effectively invisible in dark water with a strike that closes in a fraction of a second. So here's the twist. The reason this is number 4 and not number 1. You already know it's there. You jog past the pond gator the way a city commuter steps over a subway grate. That familiarity is its own kind of denial. The daily load-bearing pretense that the animal in the neighborhood lake is a feature, a fixture, practically a pet, right up until the morning it decides otherwise. And wildlife officers will tell you the truly dangerous ones aren't the wild gators at all, but the fed ones. The animals taught not to fear people one tossed marshmallow at a time, in the exact ponds where kids are playing. Whole neighborhoods name the resident gator and photograph it like a mascot, an amenity, a feature of the community pond, and every hot dog thrown from the bank quietly rewires an ambush predator to associate people with food. The state absorbs the occasional serious attack the way a city absorbs a traffic fatality, as background noise, and the pretending resets by the weekend. But at least you can see it. At least it breaks the surface. The three above it don't give you even that. Number 3. The bull shark. This is the one that breaks people. Everyone accepts sharks in the Gulf. That's the price of the ocean. You square it away and go swimming anyway. What Texans have trained themselves not to think about is that one shark refuses to honor the one boundary all the others keep. The bull shark does not stay in salt water. It swims out of the Gulf, up into the bays, through the estuaries, and straight into freshwater rivers, miles, sometimes far, far more than miles, from anything you'd call a beach. It pulls this off because it's one of the only sharks on the planet that can regulate the salt in its own body, moving from ocean to river as if the two were the same room. And it uses that ability constantly along this coast. Galveston Bay and Sabine Lake are documented bull shark nurseries. Researchers have watched the numbers climb across the last 4 decades as the Gulf warms. Young bulls have turned up staggering distances inland in river systems around the country. In the Mississippi, they've been recorded as far up as Illinois, more than 1,000 miles from the sea. The adults reach 11 feet and 500 pounds, and they carry a reputation as one of the more aggressive large sharks toward humans anywhere they're found. That's the combination that should stop you. An animal willing to come inland, comfortable in water too dirty to see through, in exactly the stretches where nobody is watching for a fin because everybody has decided fins belong to the beach. The denial that costs the most is the comforting one, that the brown, calm, freshwater river is a refuge from the sea. Picture the man wade fishing a coastal river at dusk. The family drifting a lazy tidal stretch on inner tubes. They are sharing that murky water with an animal built precisely for it, one that followed the tide inland with no sign to mark the crossing. There is no fence and no line drawn on the water. To the bull shark, the freshwater isn't a refuge from the ocean. It's simply more of the ocean. Number 2. The alligator snapping turtle. Tell someone there's a 200-pound turtle with a beak that can take off a finger lying on the bottom of their favorite East Texas fishing lake, and watch them decide, politely, that you're exaggerating. But you are not. The alligator snapping turtle is the largest freshwater turtle in North America, and it lives across the rivers, bayous, oxbows, and reservoirs of the eastern third of the state. The Saban, the deep creeks, the lakes people boat and swim on all summer. Most run between 150 and 175 pounds, which is already absurd for a turtle, but during a recent East Texas survey, biologists hauled up one so heavy they struggled to drag it ashore. It weighed 221 pounds, the largest wild individual ever documented in the scientific literature. It hunts by disappearing. A big snapper settles onto the bottom, holds its jaws wide open, and wriggles a small pink appendage on the tip of its tongue that looks exactly like a worm, waiting for a fish to swim in and pay for the mistake. It can hold there, motionless, for long stretches, and it holds so still for so long that algae grows across its shell until the whole animal is indistinguishable from a mossy, sunken log. That is the part that should reorder your sense of the water. The same slow rivers and lake bottoms where people swim, wade, and set unattended trot lines are where these animals sit, invisible. And while a snapper is not stalking anyone, it has no interest in a person. A 200-pound reptile with a beak strong enough to snap bone becomes a genuine problem the instant a hand reaches into the murk after a snagged line or grabs what it takes for a log. The denial here is flat disbelief. People are certain a 200-pound armored reptile with a guillotine for a mouth belongs to a documentary about somewhere wilder than here. The Amazon, the deep south of the imagination, anywhere but the lake at the end of their own road. And yet, that lake is exactly where it lives. It is on the bottom of a Texas river near you right now, mouth open, worm twitching, holding perfectly still. Number 1. The stingray. Everything on this list has been climbing toward one idea, that the thing you deny hardest is the thing you can least afford to. And the purest version of that isn't the deadliest animal here. It isn't the shark that broke the rules, or the 200-pound turtle on the river bottom. It's the one you deny with your own 2 feet, every step you take, all summer long. The stingray lies flat and disc-shaped on the bottom of the exact shallow flats where people wade, and it does the one thing that makes it impossible to respect. It buries itself in the sand until only its eyes break the surface. You will never see the one you step on. When your weight finally comes down, it whips its tail up in pure reflex and drives a bone-hard serrated spine into your ankle or your calf, a barb sheathed in venom-producing tissue and shaped like a fishhook, so it slides in easily and shreds tissue on the way back out. Often the tip snaps off inside the wound, which means surgery to remove it and a real risk of infection layered on top of the venom's deep, radiating burn. Lifelong waders describe the moment as stepping on a landmine. One missed shuffle, one backward step while setting the hook, and a routine afternoon on the flats turns into an emergency room visit and a course of antibiotics. Here is the denial, and it is the most complete on the entire list. Texans know the ray is there. They have named the defense against it, the Texas Shuffle, sliding your feet along the bottom instead of stepping, so a buried ray feels you coming and slips away before you ever touch it, and it works almost every single time. People skip it anyway, wading in flat-footed across the flats, because somewhere they've quietly decided the sandy bottom is empty, though it rarely is. This is the most common fish on Earth to sting a human, and it sits at number 1 not because it kills the most. It almost never kills, though it took Steve Irwin in a freak strike to the chest, but because the pretending is so total and so physical that you perform it with every step you take, in water clear enough to be called safe, over a bottom you have decided to trust. You cannot see it. You could shuffle it away with almost no effort, and still, summer after summer, you choose the story instead. So this was never really about fear. Fear is loud and it burns off by morning, and tomorrow you'll be back at the lake anyway. It's about the quiet agreement that lets a whole state pour its docks and boat ramps and swimming holes over a food web that is fully intact and utterly indifferent to us. The arrangement that keeps the water looking empty right up until it isn't. The surface tells you nothing. It never did.